Hello. 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 Oh my god. Another one. Another one. Another one. Hello. Testing, testing. And testing. Testing, testing. Hello. Testing, testing. Okay, let's do this.
From the beginning.
And I was shown that that Lucifer would return, that the UN and the Vatican were going to be completely behind it, again, under false pretenses. He's going to show up and say, I'm here to save the day, right? And, okay, fine, you know.
Yeah, of course,
ahead,
you can say whatever you want.
But
I've always hated censorship. It's the internet.
Sometimes, once they get you for your first love bite, well, it depends on how aware you are, right?
I forgot my bullets. I never had a gun. Here I am left standing. Am I the only one? For what I see, memories have guilted me. I'll never see the sun.
First of all, as you know, the Anunnaki and the Draco are enemies. Second of all, underneath Baghdad was a stargate that was created by the Anunnaki so that they could transfer from Jupiter to the Earth.
I'll never see the sun. I could just end it all, but the demons will have won.
Magical practitioners that, some are good and some use their magic for good and to heal and to help, and others do use it for evil. And, in some cases, people really were
This is too much sometimes.
From the broken ruins of Babylon, this is End of Days Radio. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the End of Days. This is Daniel, and I am broadcasting to you all the way from the beautiful shimmering Emerald City, right here in the heart of the Pacific Northwest. Hello, everybody. It is good to be back on air. Woo! We have a very special show tonight. We will be talking to longtime friend of the show, an expert on the occult and various paranormal, supernatural things, my buddy Todd the Bod Miller. You know him as a longtime caller of End of Days Radio. The date is October 12th, 2017. And wow, wasn't last show crazy? Have you heard it? Have you heard the show from last week with Matt Landman? It was crazy. He started to talk about the Las Vegas shooter, and suddenly my power goes out, and that information was lost in the void. Very strange. There was a storm. So of course it was the wind, right? Except the weird thing is that the show was about weather manipulation. Kind of spooky, huh? But who knows, maybe I just had my foil hat on that day. It's very hard to say sometimes. Here on End of Days Radio, we often walk right on the edge between fantasy and reality, because that's where some very strange things lay, and that's where we try to explore. And sometimes we get paranoid. Sometimes I get paranoid. But like I said last show, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not after you. So we do bring up a lot of things on this show that are controversial, things that are probably better left unsaid for most people, but this is where we handle those issues. This is where we handle those matters. And I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm not going to back down. I'm going to talk about whatever the hell I want to. I'm going to talk about flat earth. I'm going to talk about anarchy. No, not anarchy. We don't actually want anarchy. That would be bad. Anyways, we can talk about this bullshit later, quite frankly. We have a show to do here. We're going to talk to Todd Miller. I'm going to call him right now. Hello.
What's going on, Daniel?
I'm just sitting here with my iPad in my lap and getting ready to have a stellar conversation with a certain person that I know. His name is Todd. He's the man of many faces. He is the 1,000-year-old genie himself. How are you doing?
I'm so freaking good. Heart beating out of my chest. Chance to redeem myself from that last interview where I was horribly buzzed.
Well, it's
how you doing?
It's understandable, Todd. Those were strange times indeed.
Oh yeah. But good times, strange times. Notice how life moves on and gets weird, and weird how life moves on, changes.
Todd, did you hear that last show?
The last one, yes, I love that show. God, so good.
What did you think about my power getting shut off right when we started talking about the Las Vegas shooting?
Well, a lot of stuff about my past I never really talked about on your show, even though I've talked about a lot of other stuff. I suffered stuff that was weird and, would stop stuff that I was doing back in my younger days, like your show's doing. And I have stories where they try to shut down the communication from back then. It's one of the reasons I really never mentioned it, because they fuck with people that try to talk about these subjects.
That's pretty spooky.
Yeah. Life's spooky, but that kind of gives you a thrill if you can ride this spooky son of a gun.
Well, Todd, I'm so happy that you are here tonight, going with me into the void aboard this end of days ship into the night.
That is so sweet. And I brought my tambourine if the conversation gets flat.
Okay.
No, I'm just teasing. But I do have the tambourine in case you do the mind-blowing moment of the day.
All right. I have my maraca here.
Along.
I have my maraca here as well, so we'll have a good time.
I left my maracas downstairs. Thought the tambourine would be enough. Anyways, it's so good to talk to you, Daniel. How are you?
I'm really doing good. And Todd, I think that, what you said earlier, I think that you shouldn't come in this feeling like you need to redeem yourself, because the last interview, it was good, but I'm excited to be able to get maybe a little bit more information out of you this time, because you know a lot of different things about a lot of different subjects.
Oh, totally. And I couldn't agree more with what you said. I just thought I'd start out with the self-deprecating humor that people do, you know. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm back. Maybe you'll like me this, you know, it could be better this time. You know how that, you know, his society has that self-deprecating humor.
Yeah, it's good to be a little bit self-deprecating, I think.
Yeah, start self-deprecating, and then maybe they'll let you, you know, back up after you made your mistake. I'm just teasing. Because one of the things I wanted to discuss again is anthropology and how our society runs off systems that are ancient, and they've just modernized the same ancient systems and all the techniques of control, and that's what this is about. That's what we're struggling against.
I completely agree with you, Todd. I do remember you telling me about a dream that you had. Would you like to share that?
Yeah. Dream.
Yeah,
some pretty wild ones. Which one?
Oh, the thing about the Black Pyramid.
Oh, the Black Pyramid. No, that wasn't a dream. That was a vision.
Oh.
I better start from the beginning, Daniel, if you allow me.
Oh,
and not
absolutely.
go back through my whole life. How about long story short? I'm in Salt Lake, beautiful Salt Lake. Come here, see the temple. They got this great scenic tour you can take. It's incredible. But I was born back in the late 60s in a magical place, raised up by a wonderful family. My mom taught me how to read real early, as you know, and then as time progressed, my mom taught me how to read long before school, so I was reading books that people in school had never even read. And then when I got into my later teens, I was reading some pretty heavy books, heavy lifting in the occult world, like The Occult by Colin Wilson and other ones. I had found Lovecraft when I was about 10 or 11, and so by the time I was 12, I'd read all Lovecraft's crap and Edgar Allan Poe and all those great writers. I was raised, in a Mormon community, long story short, and I did comparative religious studies just for the hell of it when I was in grade school, because I could read so well. By the time I got to high school, my reading was off the charts. They came and told me that on the SAT scores, you were in the top, 4% in the country on your reading comprehension skills. And what that meant was I understood what I was reading at an age that they couldn't believe. They're all excited. Oh, God, this is going to mean great things for you. I didn't go to college. I had scholarships that I was granted in high school, but I chose not to go to college. I went a different route, and one of the reasons that I went a different route way back then, this is like 1980s, was because by the time I graduated from high school, I was already familiar with Lovecraft and all these things, and I haunted bookstores, and I found the conspiracies. I found magic first, Crowley by about 12 years old. Ozzy Osbourne came out with Diary of a Madman, 1980, and so he was telling you, get on to Crowley, but most people couldn't read even back then. But by the time I was in my late teens, I'd already read all the magical books and studied all this, and then I found the conspiracy. So before I graduated from high school, I realized the conspiracy was there, and I chose not to go to college because my family had a business where I could go to work for them immediately. By not going to college, I chose labor, and then partied throughout the 80s like we did, the early 80s, and but educated as many people as I could way back then on all this, and then realized, man, I got to do something. I found talk radio. You ever heard talk radio? Your local live stations.
Yeah, definitely. I listened to
I
quite a
found
few
one
of
of
them.
those back in the early 80s, a local one that you could call in. Hey! And so I would call in and I'd go, man, do you know this? And I'd, get on these shows and talk about these things. And then I met my first wife, who's now deceased. She was a producer at the local talk radio station here. And she said, wow, you're really smart on this stuff. Do you want to come in, try to do some shows? I know the owner of the station. So I said, for sure, let's meet for coffee. I met my first wife. She was a producer for a talk radio station here locally. And that's when I started trying to broadcast some of this information that you're talking about way back in the 1990s. I'd found it in the mid-'80s, and by that time I was calling in, and I met my first wife, who's now deceased. In 1990s.
You okay, Todd?
Yeah.
In 19 when?
89, 90.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Wild child. Incredible producer for local radio station. Anyways, we did a show. It was 10 to 12 at midnight for about a year. And I brought the spookiest people I could find on back then, Daniel. And the radio station suffered effects. Kind of weird things were going on the whole time. And then we got death threats and bomb threats and threats, the whole time we were doing it. It was a pretty wild show. I was trying to introduce people way back then to people that's common now. But I got some pretty spooky guests on back then. And if you ever want to hear the tapes, Daniel, I told you I recorded all those. Anyways, as time moved on, it pretty much drove us off that project. And there was just so many weird things. I can't even go into all the crap that happened to us, me and my wife. She was a genius and brilliant and beautiful. And so we moved on to our next kind of project, which was putting out a magazine here locally. Lasted about a year, but it was incredible. I'm an artist, as I've told you. I got to draw and then put everything together. Back in the old days, you used copy machines and X-Acto blades to put magazines and newspapers together. I've worked for a lot of different news, done ads for companies and stuff for papers. I'm a published cartoonist, as I told you. That was that period. As it moved on, we decided, let's open a magic shop. My wife and I, here in Salt Lake. We met all the local witch groups and a number of other groups that I didn't realize existed, like Viking secret societies that hold ceremonies and all kinds of characters, because we had a magic shop. We had a dispute with the owner of the place and moved out of there, and then decided, what do we want to do? Because other people have magic shops here, and they felt trapped in their shop. We have great magic shops in Salt Lake, by the way. The Golden Dawn and Golden Braid, and what's the other one? There's another really good one. But I'm just talking to my wife for a minute. She's in the background. Anyways, to move this story forward, after the magic shop, I didn't realize my wife was sick, had diabetes, and we barely struggled to get by, as my life's pretty much been since I didn't go to college. I mean, go to college, make some money, go this way, be hard, do the rougher hoe. But the rougher hoe was better because I learned a lot, met a lot of seen a lot of weird stuff. My first wife, just to finish with that topic, I love her, and that's why I kind of stopped for a second because I don't like to sit and talk about this. She was pretty much as advanced magically as you could get, and all the groups that we met here around here realized that she was high. She was some kind of high position in the witch magical tradition. So I'm Mormon, but when I met my first wife, she was wild child, knew everything about Crowley and all the Golden Dawn, and was a producer at the radio station. So wow, goddamn, I love those books. Tell me everything you know. Can't you see, Daniel, how it'd be love at first sight?
Yeah, that's an incredible story.
Yeah, it got pretty spooky. At one point during the radio experience, I had to lean on magic just to keep my mind together. But as it moves on, we kept doing creative stuff. My wife was such a wild child; she'd lose interest with projects, and I'd keep going. We could have made them successful. I don't know if I sent you a magazine, Daniel, from that period. Our own little zine. They called them zines back then, Daniel.
Yeah, actually, Todd, he sent me a bunch of things. He sent me some really cool artwork as well as the work that he did back in the day. Some of the online, I mean, not the online, but the published periodicals and some of your artwork. Yeah. Some really cool stuff.
Local underground punk scene that's anti-establishment. You know, the smart people.
Yeah. Yeah, what I meant to say was that was like the internet back then. I mean, that was like, you know, back then you didn't have these online forums and stuff where people that were into this stuff could congregate. You were kind of doing the thing that a lot of fans that are into this show are doing now, but that's how it was back then, the people that were into this sort of stuff.
And I was such a nerd that I made my own zines that were the coolest zines you've ever seen in your life, and I would copy them and put them together and pass them out at the local scene, you know, the punk record shops, because there was zines going, other zines, crazy zines back then, Daniel. You'd love those zines from back then. All the best, you know, punk stuff and weird art and all that. And so I was doing the conspiracy stuff, you know, like Stop the New World Order way back when, just for the hell of it, or the halibut. But I did that when I was in my, like, teenage, late high school years. So I was doing that back at the late high. None of my friends got it because nobody read or could understand why you'd want to be interested in the one world government coming to mulch your mind, right?
Oh yeah, that's what I've gone through myself. I mean, I've lost friends because I'm so interested in these fringe and weird and dangerous things.
But what's so funny in my case is all these people that, Todd's smart and all that. He knows, 2 + 2 or whatever. They later on were like, wow, fuck, how'd you know? How'd you call that, And I made, they're like, wow, you've done something, all these old friends from the past. I had a lot of friends from high school, I communicate with and don't, that later on they're just like, yeah, you pegged it. So whatever Miller says. But Daniel, they probably never listened to a word I said back then, or now.
Well, the important thing is that you were right there at the cusp of what was going on, and I happen to know that you had a particular person that you talked to on your radio program. Would it be okay to say who that was?
I did not interview Bill Cooper, if that's who you're thinking.
Oh, maybe I had that wrong.
But Barbara Honecker. And even spookier ones. I had spookier people than Bill Cooper. But Bill Cooper was interviewed at the station the same time that I was doing my shows. And the reason Bill Cooper was being interviewed was because he came to town as an event, right? Speaking engagements. And he's the top draw, right? Bill Cooper.
Oh, I see.
So the midday guy at 5 o'clock, the big enchilada, who may even make money, was interviewing Bill Cooper, did 2 or 3 times because Cooper's so intense. And during one of those interviews, at the exact same time we were doing our show later at night, somebody crashed into the telephone pole, blew the transformer out in the middle of the show so it couldn't be delivered. And that's on Archetype, or, in some file somewhere you can listen to. I have those tapes too. I interviewed that. I kept that interview. Back then we used to use cassette tapes, Daniel, to save things.
Oh, yeah. I remember when I was a kid using cassette tapes to record myself and make funny little tapes.
Yeah, that's kind of how I started out with messing around with as a kid. We'd play our favorite albums, our favorite songs that were going, and try practice singing them. And found out that once in a while it almost sounded like them when you played it back.
Todd, have you been, this whole time, have you been in hiding?
I wouldn't call it hiding as much as, the time on your show, probably.
Well, I just mean in general. I mean, in general, after something like that would happen, I think that I would want to lay low at least, right?
Oh, yeah. Not just lay low, but fucking try to recover from the attack. Because you asked about the Black Pyramid thing. That was a vision I had at that time. At that time, I realized, because I could see deeper. I could see deeper into things. That whatever this was, it's got a presence. And I had a vision of I try to put this in context. This is when the radio show was going, when things started to get scary. We started just having weird stuff happen to us. Bad luck, you might say. And I had this vision that kicked in where I saw where this is going. And it was a black pyramid with an eye on top, a giant pyramid that sat above the earth. And as it rotated, its light was leaving ashes. It was like a dark light, a black pyramid, dark light. And ashes were covering the earth. And all the people were living under the ashes in subterranean temples. Or not temples, just tunnels. All of us, the people, were lighting their way with candles and underground with their heads bowed down. And the solution, or the breakthrough, was that the people would realize that it's ashes, it's not dirt, but we are under a dark cloud of their crap that we all have to wake up to. And in my vision, everybody woke up and burned that layer off the earth. And everybody could see the pyramid that had been erected, but it was over for the pyramid once everybody woke up. And then I snapped out of that vision. I've had only about 2 or 3 visions in my whole life. That was one.
What do you think it was that you were seeing?
I was seeing what it was and the solution to get out.
What's the solution?
That everybody wakes up to their own power and lights their own flames so that they burn through the darkness that's been imposed on us by a little tiny elite group.
This is getting scary, Todd.
Well, I wanted to get spooky because it's that time of year and I'm scared, so let's get everybody scared.
You're scaring us.
Well, Clyde Lewis has talked last week about he's being attacked right now. So the attack part is no joke.
No, I don't think that that's any sort of joke. That's just so troubling
to hear.
You
can joke around about it because that's the best way to deal with it. I'm being attacked. Hey.
Well, it's the truth is, Todd, that I have had very similar experiences, and I think that humor is how I deal with it and cope with it. Indeed, I think that the only way you can stay sane in this insane time that we live in is to have a sense of humor.
Yeah, yep. And go crazy because maybe crazy isn't so crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe that's what you need to do because of the conditioning that's gone on and is mechanized now.
Todd, are you afraid that if you talk about this that it's going to start up again?
Well, no, because AI is probably watching everything and they already try to know what I'm going to do, and you and anybody else. Even the smallest programs or biggest programs, they're all being monitored by the AI. I mean, you've read all those stories, right? They have a avatar for everybody on Earth, and they're filling in the blanks for it, and it's on a computer.
Now, Todd, you don't really like computers very much, right?
Yeah, we were taught back in the 80s, there were lots of heavy metal bands that talked about machines are going to take over. The most best example was Queensryche did an album called Queen of the Reich, and another one where they talked about machines are going to take over through computers. And there were other bands that did similar stuff. So yeah, I kind of knew, watch out for that.
Yeah, that's really a troubling thing because we have had so many movies like The Matrix, the Terminator series, and other ones. There's so many where machines become sentient and take over from the humans, and there are so many different little allegories in there. The whole concept is really scary, and we seem to be getting closer and closer to it every day.
I'll tell you the biggest part is that we are the military's budget last year, I think, or this year, Trump approved is like $800 billion, right? For 1 year. They've already been inventing every kind of robot, and they've already probably ran every scenario of killer mechanized machine. And they've already produced them by the thousands, drones and robots, and they're getting ready to just flood them in our society. Boy, it's here, and they keep saying that if AI wakes up, that's going to be the most horrible thing. Notice how they keep the billionaires of the world are like, it could be the end of the world if a machine wakes up. Because a machine like that, it would destroy so much and be impenetrable. We had lots of killer songs back in the 80s and 90s. Megadeth, Psychotron, talks about the killing machine that has no feelings and it just, slicing everybody down, you know. So we're exposed to lots of AI, killer machines, end of the world stuff, Terminator.
Yeah, there's the album Queen, News of This World, didn't it have a giant robot?
Oh yeah, Queen, even back in the 80s, go back to 1970 with Iron Man. Black Sabbath. I am Iron Man, big giant metal dude that's gonna crush you. Remember Iron Man?
Oh yeah, that's a great song.
But after that, it was Queen with that big metal robot, and there was cartoons and movies back then about the big metal robot coming. And I think that was all based upon old World War II stuff, where they built stuff so weird and huge with machines, so they were. It still wasn't. They couldn't envision the new AI that'll look just like humans. They probably already have cyborgs all amongst us. Even I bet they've got robots walking around practicing to see if they can adapt to our society.
Yeah, the whole concept of that is very fascinating. And Todd, since we are talking about music and you mentioned Black Sabbath, there's something to this whole Black Sabbath thing, isn't there? Maybe some kind of connection to secret societies or some kind of evil Hollywood elite, possibly?
Well, there's definitely a connection. Look at the Harvey Weinstein story going right now. Look at what this guy was doing to these girls, supposedly. You go back to 1970 when Black Sabbath's coming out, and there's all these bands. They're touring a circuit before they're ever popular. And these evil music industry is probably scoping them out, making sure they can do it. Look, if a band gets big, they don't just kick back and take it easy. They got to go tour for their $1 million, which is a bitch, right?
Exactly.
They don't get to sit poolside with, or they do later after the show. I'd trade, I guess, for my job.
Well,
2 or 3 hour show, and then you go back to the hotel.
You actually told me about a Clyde Lewis program with the band Coven, and that is a crazy story.
If anybody out there wants to hear the baddest show, it's Clyde Lewis Interviews Coven, and it's about a year old, and he did it on Halloween. But she breaks down how they were world famous and bigger than Black Sabbath in 1967, 68. They had the #1 song of the year in like 68 called Tin Man. And you wouldn't think anything bad about this band. Listen to the One Tin Soldier Rides Away. And this beautiful singer, she's blonde and beautiful. The band's Coven, and the whole band's based upon the idea that they're into witchcraft. They're having Black Sabbath. They know all about it. She was real, comes from a family of witches, and knew the tradition inside out. Ozzy Osbourne was hanging around the music scene and played with their band for a little while, and suddenly about 1968 there comes out a Black Sabbath where Ozzy had signed with the big record label and Coven kind of got cut out. So go look that story up, because Martha Stewart in 1985 on MTV busts him. Go look this YouTube up, where she's got Tony Iommi, the lead guitarist for Black Sabbath, in the height of their band, and she's like, I got a surprise for you. There's the album I found in a used record store. It's Coven. Have you ever heard of these guys? And Tony's like, no, I never heard of those guys. And he's like, well, that's weird, because the first song's called Black Sabbath on the album. He's like, oh, they must have just come up with that idea. And then eventually she goes, well, that's strange, because there's a guy named Oz Osbourne as the guitarist listed as a band member. And he goes, oh, that's not Ozzy. So go look that up.
Yeah, it's very
Clyde
strange.
Lewis episode.
The whole thing is really weird, because I looked it up on Wikipedia, and it said that the guy's name was Oz Osbourne, and the connections are very strange because, like you said, they had a song Black Sabbath, and they were doing the whole thing, and what do you think is going on there? Was there some kind of corruption involved?
I don't think that they were dark enough or weird enough, because they were changing the music industry. They used her because she was beautiful and had a great voice up until it was time to move in some people they control, some puppets. And it's not that they don't tell Ozzy or Tony Iommi what to write or sing or do. No. They just make sure that their career goes the right way if they keep producing dark, incredible shit. You see how that works? In my opinion, they started introducing the darker stuff. That was the hard rock. It didn't last long. They softened it after that. That was the ramp up during the drug days, 68, where the government was just getting ready to start fighting the drugs back then.
This is fascinating stuff, Todd. And I am so weirded out and freaked out by this whole thing. Like I said, I did listen to that Clyde Lewis program that you directed me towards. And that, what's the name of the lead singer again? Jinx, right?
Jinx.
Yeah, she basically said that she came from a rich family and she was put out there by these secret societies. Didn't she say something like that?
And they met in the biggest mansions you ever seen, and they were old, and they already had this was old. This is an old, ancient secret society that worships Lucifer, Satan. Get together for black masses. That's what they do. And it was no biggie. It's no biggie. She said that the record people made them sign, everybody then, in 1968 or 9, your contract in blood. And she said that she knows those other bands and that they did it.
This stuff is real, people. This stuff is real, people. It's real. It's connect the dots.
Listen to her. She knows Stevie Nicks. Stevie Nicks was her protege that was watching her going, how do I get big? So, yeah, there's a scene, and California, of course, is where that comes out of. Look at Harvey Weinstein, yeah. No. Who knows what's going on with Harvey Weinstein? I'm not going to throw him under the bus because it sounds like they probably got it in for him.
Well, it sounds like you get away with this stuff until you piss these people off, and then they reveal the information about you.
Well, they can use him as a distraction, too, from the Vegas shooting.
Do you know anything about that shooting, Todd? What was going on there?
Notice how the news has moved from the Vegas shooting to Harvey Weinstein. All I can say, which I did want to say something, is what I've seen, the footage, the audio, the hosts that I've listened to and their observations of the event. I just got to raise the questions about he installed cameras outside in the hall. He blocked off a stairway exit, we're told. He busted out hurricane-proof windows. He packed all these guns up for this 3-day extravaganza. He lives a normal life up until that day, that moment. Let me tell you the thing that's hit me the weirdest, Daniel.
Okay.
Somebody leaked photos a day after. We never get photos of any event. Like some events, you never get photos of anything, right? But suddenly the news is splattered with all these photos of him in the hotel room dead. This happened, that happened. Vegas police have changed their story twice this week. And there were 3 people's orders for food from his room. Audio of the cab driver at the Mandalay Bay going, wow, that sounds like there's freaking gunfire, and it's a mile away. And then about you hear it sound like it's coming right from next to him. He's like, well, it's fucking scary. And then you hear shots a mile away. And then there's one right next to you. That footage is too much to gloss over.
Oh boy. Todd, are you scaring
okay.
Are you scaring us because it's Halloween? Is that what you're doing?
Well, I was hoping to. Because I was kind of bummed about your last episode where you said, you don't like clowns. You're like, why are these clowns here? So, it bummed me because my cousin Eric and I, the talented musician, my cousin, we done a couple of clown songs, over the last year or two. We get inspired. I've got a weird clown that, for Halloween, kind of inspires you to write a weird heavy metal song, or it did us, and we got a killer clown song. We just stuck around. We're not a real band. He's a real band. I'm just more like a hobbyist because all I do is work. But on the killer clown, that's the name of our song. I decided to do a little research, Daniel. I already knew some weird stuff about clowns. Remember like 3 years ago when they were first showing up in the news?
Yeah, definitely. I've just thought that was, since it started, I mean, you'd have to be an idiot to do something like that, or some kind of very sadistic person.
Very dangerous stunt, and but back then people weren't on to clowns. They weren't like, oh, it's a bad thing. That wasn't the story. But 3-4 years ago, they started all these stories. I remember cataloging them, about 12 a year, of people dressing up as clowns, trying to lure kids off. You probably remember the story where the guy shot at the clown and then he ran off into the woods, and when the police arrived, he's like, he's harassing my kids in Chicago or something.
I don't blame him.
Oh, totally. But I wanted to tell you the history of clowns, because you said, where do clowns come from? Clowns, they're in a costume, they're wearing makeup, right? That's kind of the image. Well, the earliest kind of images like that are 5,000 years old, where the Egyptian pharaohs were kidnapping pygmies from Africa and dressing them in skins and putting masks on them and making them reenact things with the gods, their stories. And it made them laugh. That was 5,000 years ago.
Interesting.
If you move forward, there's lots of where there's the clown thing is so deep that in anthropology, when they study civilizations, if a civilization has a figure in it that they're studying that is the clown position, and that's what they call it in anthropology, they call that society or tribe or civilization a clown society. Because the research about clowns and clown society goes so far back that there's anthropologists that are cataloging it to try to explain this weird phenomenon.
Holy shit, are you kidding
Daniel,
me?
It goes back to what I try to keep coming back to you with anthropology. We're all running on the same old tribal systems that primitive people existed under and how they were controlled. Our minds are the techniques that they used are being used today, but they're mechanized and modern. But if you understand the old basic techniques that they use on all the tribes, then you'll understand where they get you and how you can get out, kind of, for yourself.
This is really spooky stuff, Todd.
Yeah, and I wanted to get spookier because there's some really weird shit going on.
But hey, Todd.
The Necronomicon.
Oh.
The Necronomicon.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, you know what is so coincidental? I was about to say we should probably get into Lovecraft a little bit, and suddenly you mentioned the Necronomicon, so I just thought, hey, I just let him go ahead, so go ahead.
Okay, so, everybody's heard the Lovecraft stories, Lovecraft themes, and I told you where I found them. So, as soon as a Necronomicon was available to buy, I bought it and found it back in 1978. And I was young and knew a little bit about magic, but man, imagine how your mind works at that time, right? So there's many copies of the Necronomicon if you want to go back into the history of all that crap. I bought one that's a classic. You can find it easily. But I went through it and was fascinated by it and pulled a couple rituals out. Supposedly it's ancient Sumerian. It was based on ancient Sumerian magical rituals and kind of forged, Daniel, like they ripped off Babylonian magical rituals and they introduced them as the Necronomicon, supposedly written by the mad Arab Al-Hazred. And I bought the book and I practiced a couple things in there, and sure enough, the book warned you, don't, if you mess around with this, realize these are primordial, weird forces that maybe your religion that you're a part of might not even be able to repel. You know how in The Exorcist, Daniel, the Catholics come in to exorcise the demon, and it's like, the power of Christ compels you.
Yeah,
well, the book
of course.
warned that won't work here in some cases. Many people have already reported that even their own faith's greatest exorcism rituals wouldn't drive this thing away. So, I had to do it immediately. Practice some of those rituals.
Did they work?
They had some effects, let me say that. Did they work? I don't think my early mind in those days realized how to calculate did they work, because magicians are encouraged to keep journals, dream journal, a magical journal, your regular journal, so that you can compare all the effects that start to occur once you start to get involved in this kind of stuff. But yeah, they were spookier than hell, Daniel, and weird stuff started to really weird stuff. Like have you ever been close to electricity where your hair stands on end?
Yeah.
You can feel that stuff like that. Other bad events, just weird stuff, dark weird stuff. And so, that's kind of what I was trying to get across is I started kind of becoming like one of Lovecraft's antagonists. I've seen the mysteries, I was looking into it, and the deeper and weirder, it got, I looked deeper, and then the deeper you look, pretty soon weird shit starts to occur around you. And magic works. Go get a great ritual and practice it and tell me it doesn't.
Now, Todd, I know that magic is something that is real, and you know this, but everybody out there, they're probably still not going to quite understand. Is there some way you can explain to all the listeners out there, the thousands and thousands of people that listen to this show, could you explain to them how magic could possibly actually be a real thing?
Totally. what you see is sort of your worldview. So start from there. You're raised up in a society where all the beliefs and the cultural systems already been established. Go to another country and see how their cultural beliefs and systems are established, and you kind of understand that it varies from society to society. But the same positions and the same sort of experiences are all being experienced no matter what society you're in. We're taught, okay, break your mind out first. Believe me that magic exists, if you can. Just start with the LBRP. The simplest version is picture a dagger, trace a 8-foot circle of blue flame around you, and 8 feet out from you, trace a pentagram in the air in front of you. And then when you trace that pentagram, start from the left corner, go up center, and then end on the right, the left middle thing. But once you've done that, charge that thing, drive the dagger into the pentagram, and then visualize yourself in a cone or a ball of light that's a protective energy. And all that is just a visualization that you've just put a shield around you. Start with that, because when you use magic, you want to have a shield or a circle around you. You need to know how to protect yourself.
Interesting.
The magical groups have variations on the size of the circle and what kind of sigil you would draw in front of you. But that's the basic one that basically puts, can put a shield up around you in your mind, according to the Western magical traditions, the Golden Dawn.
This Golden Dawn, I'm pretty sure I've read about them quite a few times here and there. You know quite a bit about them, don't you, Todd?
Yeah, I studied their systems for a lot of years, and I was a real geek back then, so I took it super serious. Smart enough to comprehend it, and that's why I warn everybody that goes into Crowley. I love Crowley's stuff, but he would write things that could have 5 different meanings in certain passages. He purposely wrote things backwards and pulled pranks on people, and with his writings, so that if you weren't smart enough, you wouldn't see it and you'd fall into a trap. So I love Crowley, but Golden Dawn, but watch out for that stuff. But Golden Dawn was everything that was known in the Western world about the magical traditions. The secrets, they were a secret society built up of the rich, elite British class, all the best writers and all the politicians of their day. They didn't call them politicians, they called them noblemen, or the king, the queen, the knights. Over in England, they used the Museum of Antiquities that had the greatest, weirdest artifacts found in the whole world to do their ceremonies and their rituals. And they were considered the smartest people in the world. And powerful. The only reason we know about them and their writings is because Crowley came out and claimed that he was the new person in charge, because he'd received communications from the secret masters. And the Golden Dawn was run by MacGregor Mathers, who was given charge of the Golden Dawn by a secret society in Germany that we never quite get their name. He claimed he was the master of the group, and Crowley said, no, I'm the new master. There was magical battles that were fought between those two. Crowley split off. The whole Golden Dawn broke apart. Some of the most famous writers in the occult came from the Golden Dawn. Crowley released all the Golden Dawn secrets of magic that they never would have released publicly. They sued him for years, Daniel, because he kept publishing their secrets.
Yeah, that is some very, very crazy stuff. I'm so happy to be getting all of this great information from you tonight, Todd. It's fantastic.
Well, I'm sober. No. Semi. No, I'm sober.
Well, hey, I did want to circle back to not Crowley, but Lovecraft a little bit more.
Lovecraft.
I did want to ask you, what is your favorite Lovecraft story?
Wow, I guess we're psychically linked, because I thought, what's my freaking favorite? What would I tell Daniel to read? And it's The Picture in the House. It's 10 pages long. Is there anyone out there that can't read 10 pages nowadays? It's classic, and I'm going to give it all away, so go read it. It's almost 100 years old, for Christ's sakes. Read it already. No, I'm just teasing. A little flamboyant because I'm excited, but that story, Daniel, is so good because Lovecraft did a few stories that were outside of the Cthulhu mythos. And one of them that he did was The Picture in the House. And Lovecraft lives in upstate New England, where he admired architecture. He loved looking at houses, plus he'd look at their awnings and how they're all shaped and shit, kind of like I would as a construction worker. But he admired the old architecture and lived, kind of in that New England period of the 1920s, right? So he wrote a story about traveling from one city that's pretty advanced, but he's got to ride his bike on a dirt road to the other city that's 15, miles. And in the middle of the bike ride, he's not on a paved road in 1920. He's on a dirt road, right? It starts raining. So he decides to get off his bike and as he's riding his bike, he's looking at all these old houses that exist from like the Civil War period, 1897, old decayed houses. Nobody lives in them. He decides to pull his bike up to this house, park it under the rain, and just wait a minute, see if it would stop. His curiosity gets the best of him. He goes in the house. And it's an old house, and he's going, well, it's freaking weird. And he goes in, and it's like, well, it looks like somebody might live here. This is old, like 30, 40-year-old chairs. And he looks over, and there's a library of books. And he's like, wow, somebody read, maybe somebody's living here, but he doesn't hear anything, so he sits there for a minute. And there's a book on the middle of the table in this old house that's open on this page where it's an old woodcut print of a cannibal shop. And it's a big old book on sailors that traveled back in the 1800s and saw cannibal shops. And they drew a picture of legs hanging and arms hanging, head over there. And he's like, whoa, that's freaking weird. So then he hears the noise upstairs and he's like, shit, somebody's here. And then all of a sudden he waits, he doesn't run out. And pretty soon the steps come down and it's this old guy that's telling him, we don't get many visitors around here. It's glad to see you, glad to see you. He's really freaky accent, like the Civil War accent, which is strange. And they get to talking about the books, and he gets to talking about living all alone. The old guy tells him, been out here a long time, haven't seen people forever. It's nice to see you. And he's looking at the book, and he's looking at the weird bookshelf with all the other weird books. And that's where he may have introduced some of the made-up books like the Necronomicon in that story. But anyways, as they get to talking, he starting to get creeped out. And then all of a sudden they're looking at the book as the old guy's telling them, you get to looking at these pictures all by yourself, and you get to thinking about things. And then next thing you know, this freaking drop of blood hits the page of the book. And he looks up, and the fucking ceiling's got like a 2-foot circle of blood getting ready to cave. And that's when he realizes that the old man is a cannibal. So it blows his mind. He runs out of the house, screaming, barely gets away from the guy. It's classic. That's one of my favorites. Could be my favorite.
That's awesome, Todd. And I did want to ask you, you did mention to me before we did this show that there might be some sort of connection with Crowley, between Lovecraft and Crowley.
Oh, yeah. And I tried to track down, I tried to get it closer because I'm a researcher from way back. I'm a geek. Back in the old days, we used to go down to the library and look through microfilms from newspaper articles. In those days, you had to go to the library and there's microfilms, Daniel. But everybody's always argued about a connection between Lovecraft and Crowley. Oh, Lovecraft was an atheist. He never met Crowley, even though his stories are based upon a magician that's using books, ancient grimoires, to call up things from beyond, open portals so these things can get through. He never met Crowley. He's an atheist. In 1920, Crowley traveled to New York, working for the British Secret Service. They didn't call themselves that. At that time, it's like the British CIA. Crowley was a German sympathizer, a double agent. You can get this information on the Beyond the Darkness podcast I listened to about 2 hours, and it triggered me. Listen to Crowley's histories. Go to Beyond the Darkness and look up the episode where the guest was an expert on Aleister Crowley and how he worked for the government. He was a triple agent. So he's in New York in 1920, Crowley, producing propaganda, German propaganda in America. Lovecraft always lived his whole life in Rhode Island. He got married to, I forget her name, Sonia Green. Is that possible? I don't know if Green's right, but it was Sonia. But they moved to New York in 1924. They're there 2 years. It's two of Lovecraft's worst years. He couldn't stand New York. He wanted to get back to Rhode Island because he was used to quaint old houses and creepy shit and, Rhode Island stuff. New York, the bustle of the city, all these freaking weird, he couldn't handle it. Lovecraft was like super sensitive. But he was there from 24 to 26. I don't know how long Crowley was operating. And I don't know, and I'm not saying that Crowley gave Lovecraft the story. Hey, write this. No way. But I'm saying Crowley was doing things then, opening portals. And Lovecraft was one of the first writers in history, sort of, to popularize the things coming from beyond at the same time. Is that a coincidence?
Yeah, that is a very strange coincidence. If it is one, it sounds like it might not be. Indeed, I would like to know, and I couldn't get to this, Daniel. I didn't have enough time, but I'd like to know how close Lovecraft was to Crowley and where the groups were. Because Crowley's in groups. He has magical groups. He's doing his German broadcast, going, Hitler is great. No, Hitler didn't exist then. He was, wasn't the major political party. He was preaching. He was working with the Allied forces. Crowley was moving between Britain, Germany, the United States, France. He had houses all over where he was practicing his blasphemous magical rituals. Must have been pretty crazy to be Crowley, huh? And Todd, I know of another topic that is very important to you is the whole idea of chaos magic.
Yeah. So I read all the Golden Dawn stuff, and that's all traditional magic. And one of the drawbacks kind of from the Western magical traditional magic is that it always has a Christian base or theme behind it. A lot of the Golden Dawn members, they still held the Christian thing, Jesus, and the Christian doctrines kind of mixed them in with their magical systems. I kind of understood what they were doing there, but by about the mid-'70s, late '70s, there were chaos magicians that were coming out that were trying to explain that it isn't that the technique doesn't work. You could almost put any window dressing on the techniques. And here's how they work. And chaos magicians started introducing the idea that you can be creative with your ritual, your ideas. And it's not just rituals, it's systems upon systems of behavior and thought that you spend a little time and practice some of the techniques they use to develop their skills. You start to realize that it has an effect on the mind, your life. We've talked a few times, Daniel, about what they know, what we know. Pearl divers can dive 20 minutes underwater by slowing down their heartbeat so they're not using as much oxygen. Your average person can only go underwater 4 minutes.
Damn, they must want those pearls.
Well, the pearls are, they're beautiful, especially if you get a black one.
I might have to get in on that.
On our ship, the black ship.
Yeah, hell yeah, the black ship. Right on.
I like that concept. We're selling off into the universe, the cosmos, but
selling into the unknown aboard the black ship. I sit here, the captain, with my first mate, Todd Miller.
Aye, aye, Captain. Let's fly off into the sky.
Aye, aye, matey. Let's find some scurvy wenches.
And more beautiful in outer space. I just teasing. I'm serious about a lot of these stuff. I like to joke around. I think I like to joke around a lot because my mind broke a while back.
Your mind broke?
Well, yeah, you'll lose your mind if you go into this stuff and see a lot of this stuff. I'm not saying I'm crazy, no. I'm just saying, in order to relieve all the pressures of the weird, oppressive thing, you have to laugh. You have to sing. My family always sang, though.
Well, there's something about this. These chaos magicians. They knew about this whole NWO thing, right?
Yeah. They started realizing that that they're just like everybody else, and it's a totalitarian thing that's going to come down if we don't somehow try to ensure the other direction. They talk all about it. Look up Peter James Carroll's book, Lieber Nolan Psychonaut. It's the best chaos, pretty much magic that you can practice, explanations on how to do it. I mean, I'm not saying that his book is the Bible. No, it's just a very good book to read, where they could foresee patterns back in the 90s that the world's going to turn. The magicians, especially if they're connected with the Golden Dawn and stuff, they see the world in terms of eons, which is 1,000 years. Crowley supposedly introduced the new aeon in 1904, with the Book of the Law. That's where the law was given, the law under love. That's what he said.
Yeah, this is some very fascinating stuff.
Yeah, I wanted to just break as much as I could. And one of the things I wanted to just get back to, Daniel, is anthropology. I spent an hour or so last night looking up clowns because, everybody loves clowns except for you. And no.
You love clowns, Todd? You love them?
Well, I like the really spooky ones. Those are because there's that combination. Clown induces like a combination of fear, and it's funny and it's scary. I mean, that's kind of a clown. That's why it has the effect.
I say outlaw them. Outlaw them. Make it illegal.
Clowns were protesting in Colorado like a month ago before the show come out. There was like a protest of 200 clowns that were like, it is ruining our business. People don't like us. Like, we're trying to get a party event. They actually have an association of clowns, with possibly lawyers or whatever union representing them. And the other story that brought me to mind was remember when the guy dressed up in an Obama mask, the rodeo clown, about 2 years ago and got fired and shamed? You remember that story?
No.
He was at a local rodeo back east, down south somewhere. And his thing was he wore an Obama mask and went around singing, did his thing. But, man, they shamed him, and nobody ever did that. No clown ever did that again. Guy fought for his job. I read the stories. That was about 2 or 3 years ago. But I wanted to mention some weird things about clowns. Clowns were all around in the Roman Empire. There was about 6 different clown versions that they did.
Todd,
and,
what
on the streets,
are you some kind of clown expert? Why are you talking about clowns so much?
No, I wanted to talk about clowns because the weird, dark part, not the happy part, creepy part.
But you know so much about this. You're like a clowntologist.
Well, I started looking at them about 2 or 3 years ago. Clyde Lewis did one of the best shows of his thing on clowns and their history. But he kept focused on the Middle Ages, where the bubonic plague was occurring. When people died from the bubonic plague, their nose would get red, their lips would swell up all bright red, and then they'd turn white, and they'd have little red spots all over them that would pus out and bleed. Ugh. And the bodies were everywhere in the Middle Ages. And so people got used to seeing dead bodies that were plague-ridden. And so they started kind of like making not jest, but they were callous to all the deaths. And there were people that entertained dressing up like corpse victims. That's what the red nose, the red lipstick in the Middle Ages started. And you can listen to Clyde's show. If you look back 3 years, he tells you all about the Middle Age clowns. But I went back further to Rome, and last night for about 2 hours. If I read something, I can recall it pretty good. But anyways, in Rome, they had 6 different versions of clowns. One of them was officially recognized, and his whole gimmick was making fun of the government and the religions, and nothing was too sacred for him to make fun of. Can you believe this, Daniel? That's how brutal Rome was. And comedians on the street that they're making their living making fun of the emperor, which most people get their head chopped off. If the emperor saw you, probably.
Weren't there also clowns in the medieval days with the court jesters?
Well, yeah, what happens is the history of clowns is so old, and you kind of trace it through the costume thing, but as we come to like the 16th century, Europe, and that had all the courts had a gesture. Every king and queen, God, they love their gesture. Might chop his head off. They don't like his jokes. For hundreds of years, they had to have a funny man. There's even weirder, as you go further, all the gestures, kings had gestures, and some gestures, it was a successful thing. Other gestures got their heads chopped off because of the joke in front of the king. One gesture, Henry VIII, he owed money to the Henry VIII, which is a very mean king, and he showed up with his people, like his comedy troupe. He couldn't pay the money, so he said, put me in a coffin and pretend that I've died and make a procession in front of the king, you know. So the king thought he really died. They pretended, but he didn't die. And so, but the king thought he died. So he's like, I forgive you all your debt and your family can have a bunch of money. And I'm so sorry to lose that gesture. And then the jester popped out and said, it's just a joke. And then the king's like, what the fuck? Almost chopped his head off, banished him. That's just one of the many horrible jester stories. As you go through clowns, one of the most famous pictures of clowns is by Cezanne, who's a fantastic artist. Go get some impressionist art by Cezanne. And it's the two clowns next to each other. And one's dressed in a weird, funny hat, white. The other one's dressed in a checkerboard outfit, Daniel, like weird diamonds, you know, like you see on the gestures.
Todd, you are just like creeping the shit out of me talking about all these clowns. I do not like clowns.
No, the best part's coming, though. This is the weirdest part of this whole goddamn thing. I told my wife, there's something about this clown thing. I says, I got to take it back to the Aztecs, the human sacrifice. That's where it starts, the costumes, the blood, the fear, the excitement. It's funny, it's scary. In the Temple of the Moon, this is the weirdest thing, Daniel, I found, for real. In Mexico, one of the biggest ancient ruins that they excavated 20 years ago, it's called the Temple of the Moon. It was specifically built to perform human sacrifices. Inside, the priests would wear people's skins, they dress up in costumes, paint the lips or the, who knows what they all did, but heads are hanging, arms are hanging, they're dancing, music's playing, people are being tortured, hanging up, they're drinking blood, Daniel. They're actually got cups of blood they're drinking in this Temple of the Moon. And it's the human sacrifice part. When Spain conquered South America and Central America, they finally had them under control, but they let them practice their customs. Some Franciscan monks asked the ruling elite. No, they didn't ask. They said, you got to stop frickin' sacrificing people because we're Christian, you know. Can you picture the Spanish monks over in Central America telling them, stop killing people? Well, they've got the Inquisition going on in Spain. But it's recorded. It's a famous thing where they said, why are you doing this? And the ruling elite said, because we get our lives from the gods, so we're giving these willing servants so that they can have their thing to the gods, and then they'll produce stuff down here. We'll have our sustenance down here. That's what they said. That's why they couldn't stop the ruling elite. It was so ingrained in their culture, Daniel, for thousands, hundreds of years. This is what they say, that it was people would cut their own tongue if they spoke offense by themselves against the Aztec system, for example, or they would slit their ears in half if they heard somebody saying something that was offensive to the Aztec system, or they would hang themselves or throw themselves off of a cliff if they felt they had ultimately sinned against the system. Man, that's programming. If your own people just get rid of themselves because they offended the system.
Yeah, that's very scary indeed. Todd, is that programming going on today?
That programming is going on so hard today that, but what it is it's subtle. And we can't even, Daniel, if you were to hear a bag of chips crinkle in the background, you can't even trust your own senses because our government has technology that probably crinkle some chips in their background, you know. They can introduce a voice into your head, voice-to-skull technology, where you'll hear the voice of God. Iraqi soldiers bowed down by the thousands in Gulf War I because we were using secret advanced technology that put into their heads, bow down, I am Allah. And man, they believed it, threw down the guns. Read all about it.
Yeah, I heard about that. That is very scary. It really makes you wonder if that's going on over there. How do we know it's not going on over here in more subtle ways?
And man, before my interview ends, I gotta say, Ron Paul was about the most accurate after the Vegas shooting, about, you know, the whole Vegas shooting. Everybody's, why'd he do this? What's going on? He said, people don't even care about what's a 16-year-old war that's killed millions of people continues. It goes on, increases. But God, they got to know every detail, Daniel, and motive of this guy, and our whole system's going to change. Do you see how if they want something to happen, it happens immediately? But if it's something for good for us, it never happens. Our whole
Hey,
system
Todd.
changes.
Hey, Todd.
Yeah.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we go ahead and break for about 10 minutes, let your phone take a little rest, and I'll go outside and do a little wee-wee, and then we can converge back here and maybe go another, who knows, maybe about another 30 minutes. And there's a few more things I want to get into with you. And then if you want, you can go ahead and close out the show with me. I've got a few topics to talk about, as well as the mind-blowing moment of the day. How does that sound, buddy?
Oh, man, that sounds so good. I got my tambourine ready.
All right, let's go ahead and head into that break. I'm going to play a little bit of music for our live listeners.
Cool.
Raising consciousness and awakening mankind. This is End of Days Radio. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to End of Days Radio. This is your host, Daniel, and I am still riding the black ship into the night. Here it is October 12th, 2017. My guest tonight, he is Todd Miller, the man of 1,000 words, the man of 1,000,000 faces. I call him Todd the Bod. He might call himself Todd the God. He is the Ayatollah of the Mormonola. He is a Mormon after all. So let's hear it. Todd, is he still there? Let us dial up that number again. Let's see here.
Hello.
Hello.
What's going on, my man?
You still with me, buddy?
I'm so good. Man, I'm so with you. Thank you for the opportunity to spill my soul.
Well, Todd, I'm excited to have you here because this is an exciting time, quite frankly. We are doing something very special right here in the here and now. I am just letting my heart and my soul rip, and I am doing my best to create some magic tonight with you, Todd Miller. We are going to unleash the forces of chaos upon the minds of the thousands upon thousands of little flames out there, and they're going to go and they're going to tell two friends, and they're going to tell two friends. It's just going to spread all around.
Yeah, and I'm hoping people will go, wow, I kind of see that. Wow, I might look into that. Wow, that kind of makes sense on how we're being manipulated. And, you know, I'd love to leave on a positive note, because you know how dark I am, Daniel. Bloody clowns and Mayan temples filled with blood, and they're drinking the blood out of the cups. It wasn't just the Aztecs and the Mayans. It was all of those societies for a couple thousand years down there.
And Todd, I do have to ask you about something very, very important.
Yeah.
Todd, what is going on with this flat Earth thing? Is the Earth flat?
Well, I'll give you my best view from everything I've heard. Your last guest was so good, Daniel. Please get him on again. I like his enthusiasm, you know, where he's all like, I'm trying to tell you, your fucking skies are filled with shit. I love that. So please bring him on again.
Yeah, for sure.
But he came around and told you a couple of anomalies. Polaris. I can't say what's going on, because, you know, if you say, goddamn, the world might be flat, it's like everybody look at you like, well, everything he said is suspect.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Go look into it and start to comb through. What it starts to make your mind do is it starts to make your mind realize they're hiding something. Some of these facts were being presented by the so-called greatest scientists are not adding up in certain areas, or just look at it with your own eyes. I've been up in a plane and the world looks flat.
Yeah, same with me. I've been up in an airplane and I looked all around, and I did not really get the impression that I was on a spinning ball that's going 1,000,000 miles an hour through space. Maybe it was just my perception. I don't really know, but I know what you mean about that.
But what it is I was raised, Daniel, as you know, under prove it. Please try to prove it. Don't buy that Bigfoot was, you know, it was Bigfoot. At least try to rule out every other explanation. And as you start to look into the hiding of the NASA videos, the shutting off of the videos, we don't got any pictures. With all these high-tech cameras, how come we don't have crystal clear pictures? Comes back again, Daniel. We get the shittiest images. They're hiding, you know what I think? They're hiding space platforms that they built with military black budgets. That's just a gut feeling. No secret agent told me that.
Well, I just find it really strange how these craft that they were flying to the moon and to outer space, they look so flimsy. They look so almost like they're made out of tinfoil.
Yeah, like this flimsy little thing could handle the limits of outer space that we're told is just mind-shattering. And they have lots of, you know, the Russians released their audio tapes of their attempt to get to the moon. And it has tons of dead astronauts with screaming, God, help! It's horrible. There's lots of dead astronauts spinning in our atmosphere from attempts to get there. And the Russians released their files. We never did. I got to say this, Daniel. They were going to release JFK's stuff this month on Oswald. The files are already gone. They said they're already gone. By the time they release anything, Daniel, 75, 100 years later on what happened to JFK, nobody gives a shit. And there's no files in there. See how they play everybody?
Todd, are the Freemasons keeping the secret of the flat Earth?
Well, the Freemasons, you know my view. I better not voice it again. they're so powerful, they're everywhere, they love you, they're community oriented, then why are they buying into all this crap? Because most of them are just like you and me. They wouldn't know anything about the world unless they were told and wanted to know. And the only ones that get initiated into the higher degrees, Daniels, of the secrets about the nature of our universe and its realities, those ones, they're not talking. They're not sharing the universe secrets at the barbecues that the Masons hold every weekend to the lower members.
So this thing that we've talked about all night, this web of secret societies, is this the Illuminati?
Well, on the Illuminati, there's people that say, oh, the Illuminati doesn't exist. Let me tell you, the Illuminati exists, and it's got thousands of pages of documentation because they raided the Illuminati in Bavaria, Germany. Everybody listen up. Bavaria, Germany. I think it was in 1779. Adam Weishaupt created the Illuminati, according to his official historical records, in 1776. What year was our country formed, Daniel? 1776.
Whoa! Whoa!
Another
mind-blowing moment of the day, Todd. Whoa! Oh my God, where's my maraca?
It's just a coincidence.
We hit it early this time.
It's just a coincidence. But another weird fact is Adam Weishaupt and Thomas Jefferson look a strikingly bit alike. So go look up Adam Weishaupt and then go look up Thomas Jefferson. I'm not saying they're the same person, but maybe they have the same wig designer. Or not Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, the founder of our country. Thomas Jefferson, member of the Illuminati, Daniel, he wrote letters defending them to other people. He said the Illuminati's not that bad. They just want to change our corrupt, horrible society's systems and make the world better for everybody. That's what Jefferson said, kind of paraphrased. But the Illuminati had about 12 lodges, Daniel, by the time our country was formed in 1776 in the United States. Officially, on record. But I don't want to go into Illuminati because we don't have that much time. Their history in the United States, where they set up shop, who they were. I want to go back to the 1500s because some of the original mentions of the Illuminati actually occur in Spain, and they were a secret society called the Alumbrados. And Alumbrado at that time meant the illuminated ones. And they were running Spain just before the Inquisition started. And records of them exist in detail of what they were doing, who they were. They called themselves the Alumbrados. That's the Illuminati. Go look it up. It'll open your mind to why our world looks like it does, where you're at in it.
Now, Todd.
Anyways.
Todd, there is another person that I think we should talk about. His name is Alex Jones. What are your thoughts on him?
Well, again, Alex Jones. Man, it's going to bring in ratings, but we don't really care about ratings because we're on the outskirts of the universe in our black ship sailing off into the cosmos. But, again, I don't know if I can say anything more about Alex Jones. As you know, I've never turned on him completely because I'll listen to him all the time. Fuck, he's the number 7 guy on mainstream radio. That's an amazing feat. I got to mention Bill Cooper, how he felt about Alex Jones. Go look up on YouTube, Bill Cooper on Alex Jones. I wouldn't call myself a protege of Bill Cooper, but Bill Cooper was one of the first people I ever met that was saying the secret societies are all around us. They're using symbols to communicate that are all around you, but you don't know what they're saying, but they're everywhere. And if I told you Alex Jones was creepy because he said, "Don't even trust me. Fuck, they could be sending me out here with this shit, so I'd tell you it." Because they're trying to transform our society. They want us all paranoid. And let me tell you where that ties back in, Daniel, to chaos magic. I told you the chaos magicians believe that the third final war is not going to be bombs. It's going to be magicians fighting against each other. Magicians. And Cooper said they're going to send out a whole bunch of people. He's read the documents that they're going to fill all the airwaves with all their people and shape the narrative, shape the future with their psyop. And back then you're like, fuck, you never even heard these terms, barely. Even the most advanced person looking at the conspiracy probably didn't understand what Cooper was saying. Good thing I was smart. Is it really a good thing? It was a good thing. I live Daniel, I live paycheck to paycheck. I work my fucking ass off. I think I told you that once, twice. Have no ass.
That's awesome, Todd.
Anyways, did I answer your question? Go look up what Bill Cooper thinks about Alex Jones and get back to me.
What I did want to say about Bill Cooper is people that are hardcore into this stuff, you guys are going to know who we are talking about, but Bill Cooper was the author of a book called Behold a Pale Horse, which was probably one of the first major books on conspiracy that kind of unveiled this whole thing that may or may not be going on. It seems like it is. So many parts
of the conspiracy that already existed, but he delivered so many parts, like the secret space program, the fact that they're all in secret societies, the techniques they're using to control our minds. I was exposed to stuff. Cooper said he saw a UFO that was the size of a football field come out of the ocean in front of him while he was on a submarine out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And they held him for 3 days until he said, what'd you see? And until he said, I didn't see nothing, he couldn't go home when they docked in Hawaii. So Cooper said. He said it come out of the ocean, the water opened up around it, it was gray, water was pouring off the outside of it, like it was a shield around it. And it sat there and hovered for about 10 minutes. And then it flew up into the freaking sky and disappeared. They were sitting out on a submarine for days. There were people that were supposed to sit out there and watch the ocean. You always have one guy in the top of the sub that watches the ocean. And they called up a couple of them, and he was one of them, and the 3 of them were held at base until they said they didn't see anything. That's what he said. He said he found the documents, Daniel, because he was Navy intelligence. Bill Cooper was Navy intelligence. His job was to transfer secret communications from station to station. That's why he's on a sub in the Pacific off Hawaii. He's transferring secret information from code to a new code to the next relay station. That's where he claimed he saw the stuff about the New World Order coming in the 80s. He was seeing this in the 70s, and he thought, no way. As the 80s come around, he realized, I better save some of this stuff and let people know what's coming down, if you believe what he said.
And it's also interesting to note that Bill Cooper, he actually predicted that 9/11 was going to happen, and not long after that, he suddenly died.
Oh, Osama bin Laden again. Here's the thing. Osama bin Laden's been around since 1979. Jimmy Carter's national security advisor was Zbigniew Brzezinski in 1979. Our official policy under Carter was to make friends with the rebels over in Afghanistan so they can fight the Russians. They made movies about it. Does anybody remember Rambo?
Oh, everybody remembers Rambo.
Part 3 is where he goes to the Middle East. The Arabs teach him how to ride a horse. He learns their ways of the rebels. They're so great. And then the Russians get him and they torture him. Do you remember that great torture scene, Daniel? Where the Russians are torturing Sylvester Stallone?
Yeah, definitely.
Strung up. The power's going out in the POW camp because they put so much electricity in Sylvester Stallone. It was a great scene. But anyways, central to the topic, back then there was our friends. We must arm the rebels. That was how the movies were produced, presenting the topic. That they're our friends, the rebels, Daniel. And one of those rebels was Osama bin Laden. Giving him lots of money, and he's guiding the whole thing in 79. So he's fighting the Russians. And while the Russians are trying to take Afghanistan, we're shipping them missiles that they can shoot their helicopters out of the sky. Go watch the movie Somebody's War. It was put out not long ago. What the hell is that guy's name? He was a famous politician. He couldn't wait to ship arms over there to help the rebels. And they shot down the Russians. 10 years the Russians tried to hold down Afghanistan. They left in like 1988 or 89, and then the Soviet Union collapsed in 89 or somewhere around there. No, 90 something. But Russians pulled out of Afghanistan. They couldn't hold it down because our CIA was funneling weapons. The rebels. So we were friends with Osama then, but then the story goes, he changed. He didn't like us no more. He turned against us and decided to take down the towers. That's the story they tell us. If anybody bothered to go listen to what Osama bin Laden said, he said, I didn't do it for like 3 years. He didn't take credit for it.
Yeah, wasn't there a video that seemed to be dubbed over?
Well, what's so funny about Osama bin Laden is there's like 6 different pictures of him that they present as, here's Osama. They look pretty close, Daniel, but I work with a guy that looks pretty close to Osama bin Laden. I think you can take a picture of him dressed in a turban that would look just like him. The whole thing's fishy from the beginning with CNN interviewing him in this cave. This is how they do this. Because then it turned, Daniel. He got mad at us. Why is he mad at us? Nobody wants to know. They just know he's crazy. He sounds like Lovecraft's Abdul al-Hazred with the Necronomicon. No, it's not about that. It's about we've been dropping bombs over there in the Middle East for 30 years. It's a giant military operation. Many countries, maybe you've heard of it, our invasion of Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Somalia, go down the list. Let's see, Iran's on our bad list. North Korea's shooting missiles every day. You get me?
Yeah, Todd, I have a very important question for you.
Yeah.
Are you currently under some kind of harassment, like electronic or psychic attack?
I wonder. And I wouldn't tell you. I wouldn't say, yeah, fuck, I'm getting attacked. And I'm pretty close observationalist. I've seen shit change where I live. And I got to say this, because I did want to work this in. You know when the eclipse happened, Daniel?
Yeah.
I went out to the street downtown because I'm a construction worker. And I'm working on the 7th floor of this incredible building with these beautiful condos. And at 10 o'clock, I knew the eclipse was coming, set in this beautiful fireplace 12 feet high. I got a 12-foot window that's showing me the daylight, the color of daylight. And I knew the eclipse coming. So I go down to have a smoke. And I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting there on the street downtown in Salt Lake, having a smoke. 20 minutes, maybe 15. I didn't want to just rush down. Here's the eclipse. I wanted to be there sooner, And I'm sitting there, and here comes this black guy running across the park here where all the homeless people set up their camps in Salt Lake. And he's across the street, Daniel, maybe like, how a big street is? And I can see him running through the park, and there's a cop chasing him. Big, heavy-set cop, and he can't quite catch up to him. This black guy's coming across, and I'm like, well, he's coming right at me. He's going to jump this thing. He's going to be right in front of me here soon. What am I going to do? So I'm sitting there watching this, having a smoke. He tries to jump this center barricade that had grass in it, slips, and about 4 or 5 cops take him down. And there's already police vehicles rolling in from every end of the street. And I'm like, whoa, that's freaking weird. I don't work downtown all the time, Daniel. I'm a tile setter. I move all around. But that day I was downtown. So I'm sitting on the street, and everybody from every business come out to look at the freaking eclipse. They had glasses that the whole streets were filled, man. It's pretty freaky. I didn't have no glasses. I'm like, darn, I can't look at it. I think I pulled the Trump. I actually looked at it for a second and blinked so I didn't burn my retina out. But when this eclipse came over, I don't know if you saw it, everything started to shadow. And then the next thing you know, the temperature dropped. I was just sitting there by myself looking at it, and it got 10 degrees colder over about a minute. And I looked down at my forearm, and it started goosebumps raised because I was wearing a T-shirt. You wouldn't want to have a jacket on at that point of our weather, and then it passed. It's real fast, nothing major. I didn't get to see anything, but it's pretty weird. Right after that, Daniel, I grew pumpkins. I grow pumpkins. They last 2 or 3 years. So I better make this story short. I don't want to run out of time. But last year I got 46 pumpkins from my garden last year. It blew my mind. This year, I did the same thing. Bought a pumpkin already grown, a giant one. I actually grew a 100-pound pumpkin this year, Daniel. It's incredible. That's how big we are in Halloween. But I had this giant, beautiful pumpkin patch, and then the eclipse comes, and my whole garden just dies. Everything in it dies. Did the same thing as it did last year, but this year, all of the bell peppers, tomatoes, everything just died. And then a cold spell come through.
Wait, Todd, are you telling me the pumpkin's deflated?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. One giant one literally just rotted. I saved the one. I'm like, oh my God, I better cut this one that's still good off because everything's rotting. It reminded me of a Lovecraft story, The Color Out of Space, where something weird, a meteor hits Lovecraft's The Color Out of Space. The story is on the idea is a meteor hits and everything around that meteor starts dying, getting weird colored, and the leaves are melting. And so it was pretty weird, Daniel, because that started before, remember the eclipse, and then the hurricanes, And then the shooting. What's going on here, Daniel, whether it's planned or not, is continuous trauma based coming from the environment. Our environment, your mind is going through continuous trauma now. And that's why I wanted to explain sort of that the secret societies know how to open your mind up, and they do it with trauma. And then when you're traumatized, you become hypersensitive. And when you're hypersensitive, that's the best time to insert the message, insert the programming. So whether it's God bringing the hurricanes and causing the shooter and causing Harvey Weinstein to suddenly come out in our view, we're being traumatized. And ever since the eclipse, bad things are happening. And my garden is a separate thing. I don't know if everybody experienced that, but they're messing with electromagnetic energy. They have weapons that you can't see them. They target you individually. It's too easy. So,
Todd, do you believe in possession?
Well, Christians actually invoke gods or demons. They call it invocation. So yes, of course, in the voodoo societies, that's about the best example you can go back to see where someone is actually being possessed by a real spirit, a force that exists right next to us in nature. So our modern society doesn't see it, doesn't feel it anymore, because the foundations and the traditions that they've tried to drill into us try to hide the base core sort of mechanisms that more primitive cultures like Hades still practice, and they're very powerful.
So then, Todd, do you believe in demons?
But oh, hell yes. Of course, how could you not? They're all throughout our literature. Demons are like Lovecraft's monsters. In some cases, some stories, Lovecraft's monsters are actually a real monster that people are being killed by. In other stories, Lovecraft's monster is a psychological thing that's attached itself to the narrator, and it's not real in the sense that you can see it, but it's eating into the narrator's mind. So, I mean, demons, yes. King Solomon used demons to build the temple, the sacred temple. That's where a lot of magic, the ancient grimoires, some of the most powerful ones, Daniel was talking about how he used the demons to build the temple. Very powerful, the Goetia.
And
72.
And Todd, it is interesting to talk about demons, but aren't there also aliens in Lovecraft as well?
Well, Lovecraft was an atheist. He didn't believe in religion. He thought of the universe as a really cold, giant, hollow cosmos where planets roll on into black infinities, and your little tiny life means nothing in the span of giant black planets rolling through weird solar systems. So that's Lovecraft. Kind of relate. But did you say, are aliens real?
Oh, well, I was bringing up that there's actually aliens in H.P. Lovecraft's literature, isn't there, in the mythos?
Oh, totally, totally. One of Lovecraft's, my favorites, one of his best stories is is it the color? I can't remember exactly if it's color or out of time. Because remember, he has the one story, the color out of space. He had another one that it might have been called the color out of time. I got my Lovecraft book here. I prepared for the show. See if I can find it, because it's so good. It's the shadow out of time, Daniel. The shadow out of time. It's so great because.
Oh, it's the shadow out of time.
The shadow out of time, not the color out of space. The color out of space was a comet that everything started to fucking die, slowly creeping from the place where it hit. You remember Creep Show with Stephen King, where he's sitting there and the comet falls and he's being surrounded by the plants? The Creep Show?
No, I haven't seen that.
Oh, dude, look up Creep Show because it's based on the comic books and Stephen King's in there. It's the movies. But it's ripped straight off of Lovecraft. Comet falls and everything starts to die around it. It starts to turn gray. That was the weirdest part. But in the color out of, in the shadow out of time, the narrator gets abducted by aliens that live on another planet in another time. And they replace him with, he gets to go into the alien's body on the other planet and the alien's in his body. So while he's on the other planet, he's describing these weird aliens and their civilization. Their buildings are hundreds of feet high. They stand about 60 meters, Daniel, so they're way bigger than us. In another planet, in another solar system, who knows where. And they have all these books on the origins of the universe, how it really began. Not just the origins of your local history, but the origins of the whole solar system. He gets to look at all this weird shit. But while he's in the alien body on that planet, the alien's in his body over here doing some weird shit that he doesn't know what he's doing because they're not in the same body. They transferred bodies, which is a pretty weird concept. It hadn't been done before that, Daniel. Transference of your mind into another person's body and them into yours.
Yeah, that's really trippy.
Oh, it's so trippy. It's so good. Go read that story, The Shadow Out of Time, because it describes it's so detailed that you're like, he must be really on the planet looking at this. And then Lovecraft didn't have a lot of happy endings, so don't read his stories if you want to go to bed feeling warm and fuzzy. Read his stories if you want to go to bed feeling creeped out.
Yeah.
Lovecraft, this is the weird thing. Lovecraft wrote about 60 stories over the course of his life, but he really only wrote one story, the same story over and over again into different stories. He had every twist, every variation. They say at the end, he literally just stopped writing because he couldn't write anything besides that one story that he twisted into different stories. But it was always coming back around to the same thing. Things are trying to get in from the other dimension to this one. They're using people in this dimension to come through. If you get exposed to them, you might lose your mind because they operate on that level, the creatures. So it's really cool stuff. Go read Lovecraft.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be able to talk about Lovecraft because one thing that comes up in the conspiracy world a lot lately is this whole talk about CERN and the possibility that they might actually be opening up some kind of wormhole. And then, of course, there's this story of Jack Parsons and him going out and doing some kind of ritual and carrying on from Aleister Crowley's work and trying to open some kind of portal, and supposedly one was actually opened. It does sound like this stuff might very well be real. It's reality.
I find it really strange that Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard did the working of the Babylon ritual in the same year, 1947, as the biggest UFO flap in United States history started to occur.
That's
1947.
That's amazing.
You know what else was occurring then? The formation of our intelligence agencies. The CIA was being formed. They created it in secret, and they created a new organization. At the very founding of the CIA, Daniel, they gave everybody a cloak and a dagger. The first few original members that were there for the foundation of the CIA in about 1947.
That's freaky.
Well, just consider it. I talked before about how they used balloons and cardboard tanks back in World War II and World War I. Let me tell everybody just please go to a podcast called Hardcore History and look up their series on World War I. It's a guy, I forget his name, but it's called Hardcore History. It kind of explains the whole history of the war, but one part of it explains how there's literally a line cut through Europe where you cannot go because there's so many dead bodies and munitions that they fenced the area off. And it's a wide stretch that cuts throughout Europe because they dropped so many munitions and killed so many people they couldn't even clean up the bodies. So they left them and they put a fence up around it because of World War I and II. It's creepy.
Todd, do you believe in shadow people?
I like the story I heard recently where maybe shadow people are like something running through time because stuff's starting to deteriorate, our reality's starting to sort of get weak. That's where chaos magicians want it because you can manipulate it. That's why I keep trying to come back around to, Daniel. Chaos magicians say that the best time to change things are when they're static. If they're solidly fixed, they're harder to change. But if you create a big atmosphere where things are all like up and down, you manipulate it. So shadow people might be like people running through. You're seeing images of yourself.
Do you believe in Bigfoot?
Yeah. I mean, to the point where I had a Bigfoot experience, and I bore everybody with that because I didn't see him. I was just with my girlfriend up in the mountains. Not really the mountains, but just on the border of our town. And man, I heard something in the woods that raised my hair on my arms, and we ran for our lives. It ran as fast as we could through the thickest brush you've ever seen in your life, about 100 yards. And at the end, I wondered if it was a moose, because a moose is 12 feet high around here, Daniel. But why did it stop at the end? Why would it sit and try to intimidate you and not just attack you? So I had a weird experience a while back. And then I've heard the Yeti calls with a yip, yip out there in the forest. That doesn't mean Bigfoot exists. It just
Todd, have you experienced the Mandela effect?
I picked up a Berenstein book to see if it matched up with what all they're saying.
What did you find out?
It's hard to remember when I was growing up if it was spelled that way, because it's probably published about the 90s, the late 90s. I bought it at a thrift store. The only reason I bought it is because of the Mandela effect thing. But I had those books growing up as a kid, and it seems like the name did change. And I can't find the old copy. I'm sure you can get on Amazon and find the old copies. But, our buddy Al, Al?
Oh, yeah.
Al and I were talking a long time ago, because Al's so weird and cool, about time and people manipulating with it. About one of the only people that was far out enough that we could talk about those subjects. He comes up with the most outrageous responses you've ever heard, like he's way beyond that. He's sort of custodial. Al always claims to be part of the Illuminati because his last name's Daverin. Go look up Daverin in the charts of the British royal family. He plays such a mean guitar that whatever you say, sir. Maybe you met Al. And so, what was your question?
You know what, Todd? We have gone way over our time, and I'm a little bit buzzed myself, so please forgive me, but we should probably go ahead and bring things to a close. But I did want to go ahead and give you one more opportunity to speak to the audience out there. And if you'd like to go ahead and get back on that soapbox and talk about whatever you want, if there's anything that you may have left out tonight that you forgot to talk about that you wanted to, now would be a good time. Or if not, perhaps you'd just like to give some final words and some advice for all of the young folk out there. And please tell us how we can make the world a better place.
Well, make the world a better place by making yourself a better place and a happier place to be, the best place you could be. Try. Realize that we're all being played, and you don't got to go study all the ancient grimoires to learn all the ancient magical traditions. You need to realize that there's just basic things that work that they've known about for thousands of years, and if you think about it, you can get right on how they manipulate the energies, and you can manipulate them yourself. Pray for a better world. That's the only reason I even call your shows, because it's fun and it's funny, but I also hope, Daniel, that we can make the world a better place. And I've always tried on all my calls to just give gradual hints. The people, the masters of all these different groups, they don't tell you the secret right up front. And I'm not a master of any of these groups. I'm a master of something. And I learned a lot about their techniques. But the thing is you don't, it's not like a lightning bolt where sometimes it is actually, but other times it's a gradual build-up and understanding so your body can accept the concept that you actually run your own life. And there's the same evil little corrupt group, I guess that's the message I deliver at the end, that's doing the same tricks. And we got to get more planetary. We got to go beyond this tribal systems that are using our fears to control us. And we need to think humanitarian and on a worldwide scale like they're pretending to do. And I think we can affect great change, Daniel. And I hope I didn't let anybody down tonight with my show. No, hell no.
No, Todd, you did fantastic. I think we got that information out there. I do thank you for opening up so much about your past. I think what the listeners are going to find is that this is kind of like the culmination of a long history of you calling into the show and giving these little hints and bits and pieces, and you probably blew everybody's minds tonight. So I do thank you for being so brave and talking about this stuff. Are there any plans for the future now that we're putting you over here as a guru, a shaman, a conspiracy theorist, and all kinds of other things, a magician and artist, and so many titles? Are you planning on writing a book or taking this further?
Call me what you want, devil, Satan, no, guru. I'm just a person that's reflected on these topics for a long time. And I've just watched it. I live my life where I'm so buried in my day-to-day survival. Believe me, the topic of a book's come up so many times, Daniel, just in my own mind over the years that yeah, that's pretty much written itself. So if anybody hears my story ripped off on some other podcast after this, let me know. No, I'm kidding.
I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised.
I hear you. All of a sudden my book comes out under another name. That'd be awesome. I could go read it. I could cut their title off and put my own title on it. No, I'm just teasing. That's just
oh my, Todd. I think that your story is definitely worthy of being written down, and at least we were able to record it tonight.
Yeah, and believe me, Daniel, I couldn't even go into the details. And I sat before the show and I thought, you can't go down every road and avenue of shit you've seen. You got to make a simple version, because Daniel, you know how long it takes to tell some of these roads, where that year shit that was happening. You could do a whole show on like shit that started happening some years of my life. And yeah, so I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you having me on, because I just wanted to share a couple things. Halloween, brought me on, my favorite time of year. All the ghosts and ghouls are out. Hopefully I creeped everybody out with the cannibalism stuff.
Oh, this is my favorite time of year as well, Todd. I can't wait to pig out and gorge on some Halloween candy. I can't wait to watch all my favorite Halloween classics. I can't wait to watch all those slutty girls dressing in their little witch outfits and their naughty little skimpy outfits. I can't wait for Halloween. I love this time of year, Todd.
Well, that is the time to see it. And I'll tell you what, when my wife puts on her freaking red cape and does the vampire thing, whoa, fuck, you fall in love. Beautiful, but incredible. I'll have to send you a picture down. We can't share that with anybody.
Okay.
I'll share it with you, but no, I'm just teasing. She's so beautiful. And yeah, I love Halloween, especially because it is a seasonal thing that we've been bred into since earliest origins. When the seasons change, the harvest comes, and then death is coming with the winter. It's the life, death, rebirth process all over. But this is the time of the harvest. Pull all your vegetables, do all your human sacrifices. I'm sorry if you're Aztec. Season.
Speaking of which, we have our big Halloween show coming up this year. We're going to go ahead and do our annual celebration of Halloween. We do it every year.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah,
I'll get my giant pumpkin card and send a picture. It's like 100 pounds.
Awesome. I'm hoping you're able to call in that night, Todd.
Oh, no, I will call in. And Daniel, one more reflection, because did I say it all? Did I do it all? I just
it sounds like you have one more thing.
History. And then how to save the world, your proper mindset. Did I teach everybody a magical technique? I don't know. I'm teasing. Okay, here we go. Get hard, everybody. Get fucking hard.
Whoa.
You know why? Because the world's coming, and it's going to crunch you. So get hard. That doesn't mean harden your heart. That means get ready, get active, get aggressive, and whatever it is that brings you up, if you're listening to this broadcast and helps the world, if you so choose.
Todd, I'm getting
Wake
hard
up.
already. I'm already getting hard.
Yeah, get excited because little droplets wear mountains down. Carve streams. And you know me, Daniel, I'm not selling anything. I just love your show. And I just love it. And that's why I call. I told you why I call. Found your show. There's other cheesy ass shows that they don't want to talk to the public. They just want to do a show about what they know. Right on. Other shows, like Clyde and George Norrie, they take calls, probably scream to the hilt, and they talk about their issues to keep it all programmed and guided. But your show, Daniel, off the hook, fully live.
Thanks, Todd. I try to.
I expect something pretty fucking creepy.
I try to
like Cthulhu.
Yeah, I try to offer something that is different than what's out there, because if you're going to do the same thing everybody else is doing, then you might as well just stay home and not even try it and not do anything at all.
Well, it's what it is a different animal. It's a wilder animal, and it's a more beautiful animal, your show. And it's pretty incredible, Daniel. And I love what you put together, and I appreciate that you gave me the time to sit and lay down a couple observations. And
Good.
I would just wish everybody peace and good night, and I love y'all, and maybe I'll sing next time. I was going to sing something. Judas Priest, I wrote down. What would be an inspirational Judas Priest song?
oh, that's right, Todd. I did want to also mention before, while I still have you on the line, that you actually are singing in the End of Days radio theme. Isn't that right?
That's me. I'm highly proud of it.
Yeah, for all of you
I
out
love
there,
it.
for all of you listeners out there that have heard the beginning of our show, which all of you should have because it's the beginning of every show, that is actually Todd Miller singing. He is a musician, he is a singer, and he and his cousin and his friend Al, our friend of our show, those guys got together and they put together a great theme song, and of course I helped with the mixing and all of that, and together we created something really, really great.
It's so sweet. I look forward to working with you in the future. I want you to come to my house and we'll rock out. Like, I'll show you the wild side of Salt Lake.
Yeah, of
we'll
course.
Go play some fucking guitar, hang out at the coolest spots. Fuck yeah. But no, I'm not like Bono. I'm a guy I work for a living, as do everybody else I know. But I got some talented musician friends, and I've always loved to sing. And man, I couldn't wait to do that theme song, and I'm just happy to be part of the show because I love it. So, but anyways, I appreciate your time, Daniel, and right on, my man.
All right, man. I'm gonna let you go because I've got a little bit more show and I got a few things to talk about, and I'm running out of gas. So, Todd, thank you so much thank you so much for coming on tonight. It has been a pleasure and an inspiration talking to you, and for you to tell your story and to be so brave and to do that. I do thank you very much, and absolutely we'll do this again.
Right on, Daniel. Blow my mind, blow my balls.
Blow my mind, blow my balls. Damn right. All right, that was Todd the Bod Miller. He is so many things, but what he is truly amazing and an inspiration to us all. He is a hero. For those of you that say that Caitlyn Jenner is not a hero, well, that's a hero right there. That's Todd fucking Miller. Todd the God Miller. All right, you guys, this is turning into a very long show, which is probably a good thing because for the time being, End of Days Radio is going to be on once a week. So I think that being that I can't do 2 shows a week or 3 shows a week, I can at least do a little bit of a longer show once per week. I think that's fair enough, right? All of you hardcore fans out there that eagerly lap up every single word, every single moment of the show, thank you so much for being such loyal listeners. You guys are a family. You are the End of Days Radio family. It is all about you. You are the fans. You are the listeners. And you guys are the ones that are going to plant the seeds out there. You're going to go on and you're going to tell your friends, you're going to tell your family, you're going to tell your coworkers the truth. And who knows, you might even write a book of your own. You might even start a podcast. You might even do the exact same thing that I'm doing. And that's great because we need to spread this information any way that you can. Any way that you can. I don't care if it's a newsletter. I don't care if it's a blog. I don't care if you just tweet about it sometimes on Twitter. Anything that you can do to light the flame, to keep it glowing, to help do what Todd Miller wants us to help him do and fulfill the destiny of lighting up all the little blinking lights. This is indeed the time. If you enjoy End of Days Radio, remember go to endofdaysradio.com where you can keep up on the schedule. If you want to donate to the show, you can donate there through PayPal. You can join the forum if you want to talk to me, if you want to discuss some of the topics that we talk about on this show. Of course, everything there is free, just like this show is free, and it will and always be completely free to you and me, because of course I listen to End of Days Radio as well. And there are a few things that I did want to talk about. I'm not sure how much of this stuff I'm going to get to, but I'll try to get to as much of it as I can. Obviously, there's quite a bit going on. The Seahawks won their last game, which is good. They beat those Rams. It seems like we always have trouble with the Rams. I don't know why that is, but I think we've gone on to 3-2 now. So we've won 3 and we've lost 2. We went undefeated in preseason. The team's having problems. It's probably not going to be another Super Bowl win this year, but it's still interesting to watch that foosball, isn't it? We all love football, don't we? Football still gets sky-high ratings, unlike some things like pro wrestling that seem to be kind of going extinct, but I do love it. I love my pro wrestling. If you like listening to me talk about pro wrestling, which I promise all of you that I won't do on this show, you can hear my other show. Just go to ninjashoes.net. I've only done a few of them so far, but I plan on working more on that in the future. I do enjoy wrestling, but I don't want to bore everybody that likes this show by talking about things like that. So if you like mixed martial arts and pro wrestling, check that out. Just giving a little plug to myself there. Also, last show was crazy with Matt Landman. Once again, I don't know if that whole thing was a coincidence, a synchronicity. I don't know if it was black magic. I don't know if it was technology. It could have very well been a coincidence. It might not have been, but I'm just going to move on. I'm going to keep it moving, and I'm going to power forward and not even bother talking about it or giving things like that too much attention, because you know what? Fuck them. We are here. We are the ones that have the power. They want us to think that we don't, but the truth is that we do. And we have to keep that in mind, that we are better than some lowly ass parasites. Because that's what these people are. That's what these things are that are ruining our lives and ruining the planet. They're parasites. Just like Agent Smith says on The Matrix, but not quite so brutal on humanity. What a great movie, right? The Matrix. But anyways, I do have some listener emails that I want to get to. I know that you guys love when I read these, and I love to read these as well. If you want to email me, remember that's Daniel, endofdaysradio@gmail.com. Also, there are plenty of comments on places like YouTube and Twitter and stuff like that I like to read here and there. So communicate with me any way you would like. You can email me. You can comment on the forum. You can comment on YouTube. Remember to follow me on Twitter. That's at Ninja Shoes or End of Days Radio on there. And let's see here. The first letter. Dear Daniel, your show is the best, period. I eagerly listen to every word you say and lap it all up like a kitten drinking milk. One thing, however, please stop defending Trump. He is a terrible human being, and deep down you know this. And that is from Dante. Dante, first of all, thank you for writing into the show. I do appreciate your feedback. And, I read your letter a couple days ago, and I've been thinking about it quite a bit. And the thing is, I know that people are going to disagree with what I say, and I don't think that my opinion is better than anybody else's, first of all. I'm just another person like anybody else, and my thinking is just as flawed as everybody else. But what I am here to do is to give my opinion, honestly, on this show, this radio show, this podcast, whatever way that you listen to this show. I want to be as real with you as possible. I want to be myself. I want to be raw and give my thoughts and my beliefs and not cower because of other people's opinions of what I think. So I don't want to censor myself or hold back, even if my opinion is controversial, or even if some people think it's stupid. I totally get that. But basically, some of Trump's views seem a little too conservative, but he seems like a pretty good guy to me, and I think that the economy is something that we should worry about in this country, and we probably should be a little bit tougher on these other countries, and it might be what we need right now. It might not be, but I think we should give the guy a chance and respect him at least for the hard work that he's putting in and the hard work he put into his campaign. And if you don't agree with me, that's fine. I don't expect you to. I tend to not bash too many people, except for Hillary Clinton and Alex Jones and lots of other people, but I try to keep that to a minimum. I do like to give my opinion, but I don't want to sit here and just bash people and create a lot of negativity that way. I don't think that's really right either, but there are a lot of strong opinions I have, and I won't hold back. I'm going to give them. For example, I think that this whole thing with the football players kneeling down or whatever, I think it's fucking stupid. I think that we shouldn't even pay attention to them, because as long as the anthem is playing and they're doing something, they're kneeling, they're standing, whatever, I think it's fine, and we shouldn't even give that attention, because you know what we're going to do by giving that attention? More and more people are going to start doing that, and they're going to start disrespecting the flag, and they're going to stop caring about that whole thing in general, and that's probably not good. I'm an American. I believe in the red, white, and blue, apple pie, and things like that. Warm apple pie. I believe in warm apple pie. I'm an American. I'm a real raw-blooded American, and I believe in America, and I believe in the American way, and I don't want it to get completely destroyed. But that doesn't mean that I think certain backwards things are okay. For instance, this first news story I wanted to talk about, this is actually from July. So I'm really late on this. This is middle of October, so this whole thing, but it caught my eye because I just thought it was so ridiculous in this day and age. So this school district in Texas, the great state of Texas, is bringing back corporal punishment to the schools after they've already gotten rid of it. Now, isn't that kind of strange, considering that it's 2017 and in America, in this free country, this progressive free country that's all about being the world leaders in technology and military might and inventions, our great free country of America is still allowing this very barbaric, primitive method of control in a government institution, in a school with children and young people. Doesn't that bother anybody? I get that the South is the South is very conservative, right? I totally understand that people that live down there live a more old-fashioned type of way. And there's a lot of real hardcore Christian people that live down there, and I totally understand all of that, but I don't understand something like that you would say that it's okay for the government to beat your kids, or you would want your kids to get hit by a board. I mean, this sounds like something from Little House on the Prairie. Isn't it very outdated, this whole school paddling thing? Who in their right mind would vote? It says that they voted 5-0 to reintroduce paddling in the schools. Why would these people believe that that's okay? Isn't there plenty of evidence out there that beating children is harmful in some way or another, that it's humiliating, that it's traumatic? Why would they want to be the lone area in the country that is doing something like that? That is very shameful. Shame on them. Shame on them. I think that is disgusting. And to paddle kids at school, that is, I mean, imagine how traumatic that would be in this day and age of all this fetish stuff on the internet and stuff like that. Imagine how humiliating that would be. That's just stupid and weird, and they shouldn't be doing anything like that, I think. And I'm very disturbed when I see news like that. I think that this is an issue that needs more attention, and that it should be, I think corporal punishment should be banned altogether. It should have happened 50 years ago. I mean, it should have never existed, but neither should have slavery. So come on, people, come to your senses and stop saying that it's okay to beat kids, and let's get rid of this stuff once and for all. Jeez. Oh, also, there are a few other things going on in the world. There is this whole thing about Harvey Weinstein. I've talked about this sort of thing a lot on this program, this whole concept of there being a Hollywood elite, a ring of sexual predators that use their positions of power to gain sexual favors. I mean, there's so many examples, like Bill Cosby is one. I know River Phoenix talked about certain things going on, and Michael Jackson as well, I believe, may have been abused in some way. But it's no surprise. It's no surprise that something like that was going on. And it is disgusting, but it just proves what we've been saying here on this show for so long, that there is a Hollywood elite, that there is a hidden network of some very perverted people, and they are doing all kinds of nasty things behind the scenes. So it's no surprise to me, and I'm going to watch how this thing all plays out. Todd mentioned earlier that this is a big distraction from the Las Vegas shooting, and it does seem like this stuff, it just comes at us in waves, these weird news stories. Like 1 second it's Anthony Weiner, then it's this guy, then it's that guy, then it's Harvey Weinstein. I don't really know what to say about that. I don't know if maybe it's just human nature. Maybe everybody has to have some kind of outlet, right? And it just so happens that some people's outlets are very harmful to other people. Oh boy. Hey, I say do whatever makes you happy, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. I don't care if you're into kayaking or martial arts or golf or whatever it is that makes you happy. You got to figure that out. But if whatever makes you happy is something that will actually hurt other people, then you probably should rethink that and find something a little bit more positive. Another guy that talked about this Hollywood elite thing is Dave Chappelle. Might want to look up some of his videos on YouTube. Some pretty strange stuff going on there. This next bit of news, this comes from foxnews.com. Sally White Widow Jones, one of the most notorious Islamic terrorists born in Britain, has been killed in a U.S. strike in Syria, U.S. authorities told their British counterparts. Jones, 50, a mother of two, who used to be a punk rock artist but later converted to Islam and fled to Syria to become a top recruiter for Islamic State group, was reportedly killed in June during a drone strike near the border between Syria and Iraq. All right, score another one for the drones. I do love drones. I am excited to hear anything drone related. I do love flying my drone. It sounds like this was a pretty bad woman. I mean, she was supposedly an ISIS recruiter, and they called her a white widow. It sounds like her dying is a good thing, but I do feel bad for her children. It does say that she was a mother. These Islamic beliefs, they seem to catch on very quickly, and they seem to change the areas that they take over really fast. And I have no problem with Muslims, and I have no problem with that belief system, but that whole Sharia law thing, I don't know if I like that. That is just very strict and very suppressive towards individuality. And of course, women are basically treated like shit. They have to wear these cowls and these capes and they have to basically cover their entire body besides their eyes. And then if they show their ankles or whatever, somebody walks up with a stick and beats the crap out of them. It's just awful. It sounds like schools in Texas. But seriously, like, why does this stuff go on anywhere in the world? Like, we need to solve a lot of these issues before we worry about other things, I think. Here's this next bit of news. This is from the BBC. Researchers in Sweden have found Arabic characters woven into burial costumes from Viking boat graves. The discovery raises new questions about the influence of Islam in Scandinavia, writes journalist Tariq Hussein. Okay, that's kind of cool. Looks like there is some connection there between Vikings and the Arab world. And I think that's interesting because on the show Vikings right now, they're raiding those areas in their ships. So I think that's a pretty cool connection. We like to keep on top of all the cool science stuff here on endofdaysradio.com. I mean, End of Days Radio. We're nerds. Yeah, man, we're nerds. Don't you guys love that movie, Revenge of the Nerds? But anyways, let's not get into that. Let's keep it moving. I do have another letter here. This is a comment from YouTube. It says, Daniel, you claim your last show was shut down, in quotes. Well, then why can they manipulate the weather but not shut down YouTube? That's from Silver Star on YouTube. Well, I don't see why they would have to take that show down from YouTube because, remember, the interview got cut off before Matt was able to talk about Las Vegas. That information did not get recorded on that show. It was completely left off of there. So even though, yes, I did save the interview and I did upload it later, we never recorded that part in the first place because I had no electricity because it had been taken out. Do you see what I'm saying? They accomplished their goal. They kept that information from being released. They kept him from talking about that. He was not able to talk about that stuff on the show because the power went out. He was not able to. There's no reason for them to take that show down. Why would they need to? They accomplished their goal. They cut it short. They kept us from talking about that. But again, maybe it's all just a coincidence. I hope it is, because that makes me sleep much better at night. Ugh. Gotham is back on. That show is amazing. I'm sorry. It is. Now they're starting to really go into the Batman story. So if you haven't checked out Gotham, please do. And if you are a fan of Gotham, I'm sure that you would agree that it's starting to get really good. I heard the ratings are down on that slightly. I don't know why. Seems like it's better than ever. I know it moved nights. Maybe that's why. This letter comes from Jermaine. He asked, Daniel, are you on Tinder? Am I on Tinder? You know, that is funny because I hear people talking about this thing left and right, this Tinder thing. And no, I'm sorry, I'm not into any sort of online dating websites or anything like that. I think that when you meet somebody, it should happen naturally, and it should just happen in your regular life. And I don't think you have to go on dating sites or anything like that. It seems to me that there's far more men than women on all of those sites, so I don't think they're really worth anybody's time. I think that you're much better off trying to approach an attractive person in the grocery store, or maybe at your church if you're into that, or maybe at a club or some sort of event, or a friend of a friend. Just be very social and open, and use your opportunities. I don't think you have to go on Tinder and find an easy way to hook up. I hear about people having success on that, and then I hear all these other people that say that there's just a lot of guys on there, which I'm sure is great if you're a female, but then I hear from the females that it's not so great either. So I don't really have any interest in that. Maybe if I was younger, I might get into that, but I've done online dating. Like, I used to date in the old AOL chat rooms. You know, remember that ASL stuff? They do A, then slash, then S, and L. You know what I'm talking about, right? Those old AOL chat rooms. Let's see here. You know what? That is pretty much everything. I am really excited and privileged to be able to do this show. It's been years now. I've been on the air, and I hope that I've grown a lot as a broadcaster, and I hope this show gets better and better. If you want to keep up on End of Days Radio, remember, go to endofdaysradio.com. Excuse me. I'm definitely getting tired. Remember to like us on Facebook, The Real End of Days Radio. That's facebook.com/The Real End of Days Radio. And also get us on TuneIn. Just search EODR. Remember, just capitals EODR. And that is this show with me. You can also get this show on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and YouTube. Follow me on Twitter at Ninja Shoes. If you want to call into the show, remember that number is 209-348-9810, or just add Ninja Shoes 777 on Skype. If you want to donate to End of Days Radio, help us keep the servers up and the lights on, remember to go to endofdaysradio.com. Click on donate. You can donate through PayPal. Donate $5, $10. I thank you all very much for your donations. Also, what else is going on? Remember to listen to the Halloween show. We got some shows in between. Next week, we're going to be talking to Gary Parker. And then the following week, Adam Kakesh. And we'll see about next month as well. What else is there? Man, I always feel like I'm forgetting something. Right? I'm just excited. I mean, even though the world might be getting scary, and there's all these creepy things going on in dark corners, and mind-bending, disturbing tales of unknown horror, even though all of these things are very present and real, I'm just glad to be alive. I'm glad to have this gift of life. And I think that everybody really should look within themselves and find out what it is that they are here to do. Because everybody has a mission here on the earth. And the key to being happy is to find out what that is, and to really follow your heart and get into the flow, and the flow of your spirit and who you are, and figure out who you are, and then and then your life becomes more like a movie. I almost said that backwards. Your life becomes more like a movie, and you're the director instead of an actor. So that's what you have to try to do. Just follow your heart, follow that logos, get your compass pointed in the right direction. And that's a little bit of wisdom from me to you. I try to give those little bits out. What little wisdom that I do have here in this life. Because I'm the DAN, the All-American Man, broadcasting from here in Seattle, Washington. Right here in the beautiful, luxurious Pacific Northwest, among the cliffs and the trees and the coastline, the seals, the seagulls, the trumpets blaring. It is so majestic here. And I'm so very happy to be broadcasting from this lovely place. I'm just so grateful tonight, aren't I? I'm so not that depressing guy, am I? Everybody knows that person, right? That guy at the bar, that person in the workplace, that guy that rides the bus with you in the morning who just won't shut up about getting down on life and himself. We'll just tell him to buck up, Charlie. Tell him to turn that frown upside down, because it is indeed a new day. And we have plenty of opportunities to make things better. It isn't all bad. The dark forces will never have complete control, because the universe must have balance. This is Daniel. This is End of Days Radio. We are riding the black ship into the night, into the unknown, into the outer limits. And you are all my friends. You are my family. And I am so grateful for you. Remember, if you want to chat, you can reach me at danielendofdaysradio@gmail.com. Remember, this is the End of Days. I'm Daniel, signing out.
Winter's coming.
The king has returned
from the broken ruins of Babylon. This is the end of days.